There's a quiet kind of disappointment that doesn't come from being rejected outright. It comes from being told, "You were close. Next time. Almost." It's the kind of doubt that doesn't scream. It settles in slowly. And over time, it teaches you to wait. Brian was known for being dependable. Not the loudest in the room, not the impressive at first glance, but always steady, always capable. He was the one people trusted to step in when something mattered. At work, he was praised often, recognized for his effort, told how valuable he was. But when opportunities came, promotions, leadership roles, recognition that actually changed things, Brian was never the one selected. He was always second, the one they seriously considered, the one they didn't want to lose, the one who deserved it just as much. And every time he nodded, smiled, told himself it was fine, because being close felt better than being rejected outright. At least almost chosen meant he mattered. Over time, a pattern formed. Brian became exceptional at waiting for someone to notice, waiting for the right moment, waiting for proof that his effort would finally be enough. He adjusted himself constantly, working harder, being more agreeable, smoothing his edges. He told himself patience was maturity. But deep down, something else was growing. Resentment. Not toward others, but toward himself. Because each time he stayed, he was silently agreeing that being almost chosen was acceptable. It wasn't just work. Friendships followed the same rhythm. He was included, but rarely prioritized. Invited, but rarely sought out. Valued, but never central. People leaned on him during difficult moments, but celebrated milestones without him. He told himself he wasn't the kind of person who needed the spotlight, but that wasn't true. What he needed was acknowledgement that he mattered without having to earn it endlessly. The doubt didn't arrive all at once. It showed up in small thoughts. Maybe I'm just not memorable. Maybe I'm reliable, but replaceable. Maybe this is as good as it gets. And that thought, that this was his ceiling, was more exhausting than failure would have been. The moment that changed everything wasn't grand. It was quiet. Brian sat in his car after another meeting where someone else had been chosen. Again. He didn't feel angry. He felt tired. Tired of rehearsing acceptance. tired of proving himself to rooms that never fully opened for him, tired of living in the space between good enough and not quite. And for the first time, he asked himself a different question. What if I stop waiting to be chosen? That question unsettled him because waiting had become part of his identity. If he stopped waiting, who would he be? Brian began to notice how often he minimized his own wants, how frequently he stayed silent to keep the peace, how easily he adjusted his goals to fit someone else's expectations. He realized something painful. Being almost chosen had trained him to live in anticipation, not intention. So he made small changes. Not announcements, not declarations, decisions. He stopped volunteering for roles that led nowhere. Stopped staying in conversations where he felt tolerated instead of valued. Stopped explaining his worth to people who had already decided where to place him. Some opportunities disappeared. Some people walked away. And for a while, it felt like loss. But then something unexpected happened. Without constantly waiting, Brian had energy. Without auditioning for approval, he had clarity. He started choosing environments where effort led somewhere, where interest was mutual, where presence was valued, not merely out of convenience. For the first time, he wasn't almost chosen. He was choosing. Being almost chosen can feel like validation. But over time, it becomes a quiet form of self-denial. Because when you live in anticipation of being selected, you delay your own life. You don't need to become louder to be worthy. You don't need to work harder to earn visibility. And you don't need to stay where you are continually overlooked. Sometimes the most powerful shift isn't being chosen by others. It's choosing yourself without waiting for permission. If you spent your life standing just outside the door, this may be your moment to stop knocking. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were never meant to wait there. Together, let's move from doubt to power, one story at a time.